Welcome to Combat Sports Talk, a podcast dedicated to UFC and Bellator discussion, the MMA community, and combat sports in general. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and joining me this week is the entire Combat Sports Talk crew. We've got John Keys. What's up, John?
Hey, what's happening?
All right, he is the man with the keys to victory. We got the man who is good with meat, George Stallworth.
Reffing that blood.
Ready for that coronavirus.
Well, hold
on. You heard about that, huh?
Hold on. If we get ready to do a stick after the show, I mean, that's what we do. I mean, goodness.
Just had to let you know.
And the guy with the trumpet in the back of his video and a bandana on his neck. The gangster trumpeter himself.
What up,
Onye
I'm wearing the wrong colors.
Well, wait a minute, Rob.
What up, cuz?
Wait a minute, Ryan. Where's your bandana at?
Gang.
Hey, look, we all in the same
Staying
gang.
unaffiliated.
I grew up in Raywood, Texas. It's a small town. We don't really have any gangs. No Bloods, no Crips.
They had the YMCA.
We didn't have that. We had a yellow flashing light.
Wow.
Our skyline was a rice dryer. If you go on Google Maps and look at Raywood, Texas, there is a big facility that is there to dry rice, to sell rice. We were a rice farming community. So that's it. There were no drive-bys, nothing like that, at least when I was growing up. Basically, you found somebody you brought them into a field where nobody was there. You handled your business. 2 men go, 1 come back.
I said, what's that you claiming? Brown white rice or white rice?
Shoot, it was just white rice, man. No,
Jasmine rice, cuz.
We didn't have, not a lot of choices. But yeah, people go into the woods, 1 person come back, somebody must have gotten into a fight.
That's super strange.
And I see this rice dryer too.
That's where I'm from, right there, hailing the. You know what? It is so small that I call it a town, but it is too small to be a town. It is literally classified as a village. It is a village.
Yeah.
Wow.
You always struck me as one of the village people.
Oh. Okay.
Oh.
All right. Hold on.
Bringing
One for Kalechi. Okay, we got you.
Are we bringing the heat today?
Oh, yeah, we are. So let's just see where the tallies are once we get done with this show. Hell, we might not even get to the show. We have to rechange the title to Combat Sports Talk Episode 121, The Dozens.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Well, let's get into it. George is going to beat me up after the show. I know this is going to happen. I do not look forward to the leg kick that's going to happen, but it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt real bad. Let's get into our headlines. The top thing that we want to talk about on this show, this is the headliner. All right, for the headliner, we are talking about the number 1 topic on the show, and that number 1 topic is Fight Island. We have more information about what Fight Island is, what it's going to be. Dana White said it's going to happen in June, and there's going to be an octagon on the beach.
And that's it, people. Thank you for stopping by for the show. We've heard everything we need to hear. Good night.
So I'm excited about that. I mean, this is what was when we were talking about Fight Island, what was it, 2 episodes ago? We were talking about how cool it would be if there was an octagon on the beach and they could take a shot of fighters fighting in the cage with the moon rising over the horizon or just a giant full moon. That would be just an iconic shot. And now it's going to be possible because he is actually putting an octagon on the beach.
Allegedly.
Hold on there, man. Do not break my dream come true here of Mortal Kombat Island. I mean, only thing we're missing is a throne for Dana to sit upon and just look like a villain. Okay, that's what we're missing.
The whole thing seems a little short-sighted, right? So this is solving for an immediate need, but is this a long-term sustainable thing? Because you think about it, like an island sounds dope, but which one of us here on the show is going to be able to fly out to a private island to go watch a fight? Well,
Hold on.
I mean,
My passport is good. I don't know about the rest of y'all's. Okay, all right. First of all, we don't even know where this island is at. Okay, we're only speculating that it's in international waters because he's willing to put the fights on regardless of U.S. sanctions or orders. So that means it's going to happen in international waters. The only problem is we don't know if it's in the Atlantic or the Pacific. It makes a big difference because if it's in the Atlantic, there's always the chance of a hurricane. A hurricane coming through from now until November, basically from May until November. So we always got to look out for that. Now, if it's not in the Atlantic, it's in the Pacific, the hurricanes don't happen until, cyclones in the Pacific, that doesn't happen until November to April, I think.
April? What is April?
I was like,
Well, don't you know what today is?
Combined too much?
Today is April 87. Okay, I thought y'all knew. All right, good.
wow.
It's April 87. So yeah, no, but to May or April. I mean,
So, I think it's interesting that you are focusing on the risk of Mother Nature coming through with a hurricane to mess up Fight Island. Here's the thing for me: the moment they have the first Fight Island match, it will not be a secret anymore. Everyone will know where Fight Island is, because you really think that a fighter is going to keep his mouth shut after he went on the inaugural fight at Fight Island? Like, he's going to tell you where it was. They're not going to put bags over people's heads or blindfold them while they get out there. And even if they did, let's go there. Let's assume that the UFC somehow blindfolded them, made them fly in a jet with blackened windows, whatever. The moment that we know that Fight Island is up, there are going to be people scouring Google Maps. There are going to be people trying to find Fight Island. It will become the next Area 51 rush.
Okay,
and how'd that turn out?
Yeah,
well, it's the U.S. government versus the UFC. I'm a little bit more afraid of the U.S. government than I am the UFC.
Well, you were wrong.
Remember, Mr. White is friends with Mr. Trump. 1, 2. He did say that it's going to be a private jet going out to the island. Fighters will not know where it's at. So allegedly they are going to blacken out the jet windows, so nobody will know where they're going to be landing.
This is doing too much. Like, what do we get out of this whole experience? Like, it's super secret private island. Like, I don't care if it's secret or not. Are we going to watch fights?
You know what? This gives me every 90s movie every 90s kung fu movie that I've ever watched. This is it, all rolled up into one, and we get ourselves a reality TV show on top of it.
I mean, that's all it is. This is his reality TV roots playing in too much, where it's all about the storyline and not enough about, are you delivering a worthwhile product?
I love it. I love it. I love that it's all about storyline. I love that this is larger than life. You do not get any bigger than Fight Island when it comes to mixed martial arts. Fight Moon, maybe in 100 years. Maybe you'll be able to compete with Fight Island.
No, UFC ISS, Space Station, baby. Okay, 10 years. Promise you.
No.
Zero G fighting.
Fighting.
Well,
I mean, actually, that might be worth watching.
That would
be. I was about to clown you.
If we're seeing 5-on-5 fighting over in the Eastern Bloc, Space Station fighting is right around the corner, people. All right.
Yeah, but it's less effective though, because it's not like you're moving at full speed. So Mighty Mouse doesn't have his advantage.
Oh, I think Mighty Mouse can do a spin all the way across from one side of that space station to the other. I think he can do a perpetual spin, just continuously spin all the way over till he hits the face. I
blame Ryan for this.
It's like that.
How did we divulge?
That drum technique on Karate Kid 2. You just keep, That's how you do it in space.
Wait, one more time. How's that go again?
Ryan jumped in on it as well.
Oh my gosh,
it's gonna happen. 10 years, people.
Don't believe the hype. Look, it's going to be the same boring. Like, at the end of the day, like, he's got us because we're talking about it.
Yes.
But when you think about what product he can actually pull together for that type of event on a fight island, like, the island aesthetics go away real quick after the first bout. By the second time, it's just like, it's just another venue. And even having that, again, it's a private island. So the fans that have made the sport great cannot participate in this event. So the best you can offer me is a semi-silent cage experience, like, but I can hear the beach waves crashing in the back. Like, give me something more.
We say, okay, I'll add everything that you just said there, Kelechi, and I'll add one word to it. Yet. I think Fight Island's going to be here to stay. And as soon as all this is over with, and let's put it out there, Mother Nature has caused all of this, Ryan. First of all, Mother Nature has got us here sitting in our cubby holes with our quest beards going on, talking about UFC ISS. Okay, that's
Please don't make that trending.
Like,
Fight Night,
Fight
Night International Space Station, people.
Yeah, as long as it's UFC ISS and not UFC ISIS.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, so
that is a routing protocol. That is all he's talking about.
That's right.
The alternative to MPLS.
Technology. Hey, this is the thing for me, is that, for one, I do think that fans are going to ruin this. I think that there are going to be people who are going to spoil this. The moment you have the first fight, people are going to find out. It will become the great search to find the island where the UFC has. And when they do, then that means that someone's going to be emboldened to go and sneak on the island and go and disrupt it. If someone can run on the field in the middle of the World Series or the Super Bowl, do you think that someone's not going to try to go and disrupt the fight at UFC Fight Island once they find out where it is? I think that's going to happen. The other thing that I think is that I think that if it goes well, then what you're going to see is they're going to put a hotel on that island, and it's going to become an actual destination, because it clearly already has an airport. So you put a hotel on there, now it becomes the pinnacle place to go to watch UFC, and they could continue to invest tremendous amounts of dollars for that. If it goes wrong, then you got Fire Festival, where it was a big thing was promised, but in actuality it was just a big debacle and embarrassment, and the UFC will lose its credibility.
I can see you have International Fight Week happening on that island.
What if the island what's that place where Trump has a golf course? That's like the Air Force. Yeah. That counts as an island.
That does count as an island. All the haggis you can have right there, man. All the haggis and whiskey and potatoes and cabbage you can have at your disposal.
I mean, that just kind of feels like one of those things that Dana White could pull off with his connection with Trump and Trump's desire for more business at his resorts. That's a marriage made in heaven.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And Trump was one of his early investors who helped bail him out. So
yeah,
why not do it again?
I mean, this is kind of the perfect storm.
Conspiracy theories just dropping. Look at me, I'm turning into the John over here.
Hey, hold on, man. You make that sound like that's a cuss word. Hold on, man.
No, in a great way.
Exactly.
It's either Trump's island or Epstein's island. I'm making that my prediction.
All right,
the Nostradamus.
It would. I don't think. I can't imagine that it'd be Epstein's island, but I do think that it could be an island off the coast of Florida. We talked about this last week, just because, and we're going to get into it in this next segment. But it's likely that it could be an island off the coast of Florida because of the fact that the Florida governor, what's his name, Rick DeSantis, something like that.
Yep.
He is also part of the friendship between Trump and Dana White. Those guys are all connected. So just like he's able to make a way for them to have fights in Florida in May, it's extremely possible that this island could be off the coast of Florida. Any jurisdiction would fall under the state of Florida anyway, so he'd be able to have it, and that way he can get it sanctioned by the Florida Boxing Commission. But at the same time, it's still far enough away that you're not going to get any kind of interference. So I don't know. I'm excited to find out where it is. But let's get into our next segment. We've spent enough time on this. Let's talk about not something that could happen. It's something that absolutely is going to happen, and that's UFC 249 in the what is it? What's it called? Finding the Angles. There we go. This is Finding the Angles. This is where we talk about the other headlines that are making waves in the UFC world. And if it's not the headline, it's got to be the subtext, and that is UFC 249 is absolutely happening May 9th. And we know where. It's in Jacksonville, Florida, and it's at the, let's see, what is it called? I've got it here somewhere. It's at the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena in Jacksonville, Florida. And Ron DeSantis, I said Rick DeSantis, but it's Ron DeSantis, is opening up the door because it made UFC and WWE an essential business in Florida.
This fight brought to you by Florida Man. Whenever there's craziness in the news, it's Florida Man.
Hey, Charlemagne the God said it. All the crazy people reside either in the Bronx or all of Florida. So this is right up that alley.
Yeah, so now that we know where it is, we know that it's been sanctioned. The Florida Boxing Commission is going to sanction it. So it's going to happen. We're going to have UFC 249. The fight card has been announced. It is a stacked card. I don't think that there's been a better card than this one in a long time. Let's go through some of the fights and we'll get some reactions. I want to start with George. He's been awfully quiet. So let's go with Ryan Spann versus Sam Alvey. We've got Bryce Mitchell versus Charles Rosa. Vicente Luque versus Nico Price. You got Jacare Souza versus Uriah Hall. Carla Esparza versus Michelle Waterson. You got Fabricio Verdum versus Alexei Olenek. And you got Donald Cowboy Cerrone versus Anthony Pettis. And that's just the prelims.
My thoughts exactly. That is just the prelims, man. All of those are some top-notch fights. The prelim card is off the chain. The UFC is going all out to make sure they get eyes on this card because the prelims typically are either on ESPN or ESPN Plus. Mm-hmm. So therefore, they're not stuck behind a paywall. So that's kudos to the UFC for putting that on, man.
All right. So beyond that, now we got the main card. You got Greg Hardy versus Jorgen De Castro. Jeremy Stevens versus Calvin Kattar. You got Francis.
Little heathen.
Yeah, Jeremy the little heathen Steven. You got Francis Ngannou versus Yarinso Rosenstruck. Then in the co-main event, Henry Cejudo versus Dominic Cruz for the bantamweight title. And in the main event of the evening, Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gaethje for the interim lightweight title. That is about as good a card as you're going to get. I can tell you right now, usually we go to the Lion and Crown to watch these fights and to put on a live show, or we go to another hangout to watch the fights. I'm buying this one, straight up.
You live stream that for me?
No.
I mean,
illegal. You hear that, UFC? I said no. I will not do that.
He put that straight out on our show.
See, the way that stimulus check is set up.
Yeah, so,
I'm just messing
let me
with
get
you.
some reactions from you guys, though. Like, what do you think? I mean, I'm excited about the Tony Ferguson Justin Gaethje fight. I think it's a dangerous fight for Tony Ferguson, but I think he'll win that one. I like the Francis Ngannou fight because those are two just big behemoths in the ring. You know, Jeremy Stevens always puts on a show. Calvin Kattar is a great fighter. You know, and I'm the only fight that I'm not happy with is Henry Cejudo versus Dominic Cruz. We'll talk a little bit later about why I'm not happy with that one.
Dana White talked about this whole situation. He said that the prelims is basically a pay-per-view on its own. Mm-hmm. This prelims is 3.5 hours long. Just so you guys know, this is prime fight. These are prime fights on the prelim, and then the main event is just icing on every cake that we've missed. All right, I see no bad fights on this. As a matter of fact, I really am looking forward to the Jacare versus Uriah Hall fight. I hope that Jacare pulls out a good performance against Uriah Hall on this one. I got my fellow cohorts saying no to this, but I am the optimist here. Jacare, go ahead and just get him. Get him.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Jacare fan, then you're going to get what you want. Like, we probably shouldn't be making these picks until next week, but
I'm putting it out there now.
But we'll put it out there now. How in the world is Uriah Hall going to be able to survive the jiu-jitsu?
He's not.
Well, you got to remember, Jacare doesn't necessarily just jump right into his jits. He likes to strike a little bit too.
Yeah, but just like Nick Diaz says, or Nate, I'm sorry. As soon as they get hit, all of a sudden you're a grappler.
You're a wrestler now.
Yeah.
You're a wrestler now.
Yeah, I look for Jacare to go straight to the jits. I mean, seriously, I think he's gonna roll him up.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Uriah Hall is such a big athletic guy. I mean, he's gotten better, but I haven't seen him fight in a while because he never seems to make it out of the prelim fights these days. But he's always struggled with the mental aspects of the fight. And so if he doesn't get in his own
he's training here in Dallas now, right?
Really?
You're Mr. Hall.
Yes.
I am really rooting for you. You go, Mr. Hall, sir.
Hey, that story up real quick, huh?
That's right.
Yeah, he's
if
training
he's
out
in
of
Dallas.
Fortis,
I ain't talking smack about
here
a Dallas
currently.
fighter.
He's here in Dallas training.
Oh, he's
been here
in
for a while.
Fortis.
He's
Oh,
at
wow.
Fortis.
We're just really gonna have to run up on this gym, dude. I mean, walk up there. We're not running up on nothing. Okay, we're walking very slowly with our hands out in a neutral position to be
Run up,
diplomatic.
you get done up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, don't let these scars fool y'all. Trust me, it's just for the virus. We ain't trying to stick nothing. All right, so we should really visit this Fortis because we've seen they've really been a force of nature in the past year and a half. If you really look, a lot of the fighters that have shown up on a lot of the pay-per-views have come from Fortis.
Mm-hmm.
So we should pay a visit.
Let's talk about some of the stories coming out of UFC 249. The first one, Ngannou and Rozenstruik, they're not fighting for an interim title. As we know that Stipe Miocic has been sidelined with, I think, an eye injury or some type of injury. And so therefore that fight, he's not fighting anyone until he fights Daniel Cormier. So that means the heavyweight division is being held up. And so Rozenstruik and Ngannou are like, we should be fighting for a title, at least an interim title, in the meantime, and the UFC said no. Do you guys think that this fight should be an interim title fight?
If the champ is injured, and on top of that he gives a stipulation, I'm not fighting until I fight this person. When are they going to fight? It becomes the question. When are they going to do it? And see, on top of that, it's bad optics, in my opinion, because Stipe he's still a firefighter. He's still a first responder. That would look really bad if the UFC said, "Oh, we're going to give this. We're going to ignore the champ here." Just because even though he is injured, because you're putting a first responder to the side for the glory of the game. That's kind of a bad optics type of deal, even though it's business.
I just think it's bad because if there's an interim title fight between Ngannou and Rozenstruik, then technically
DC.
they have a better claim to the title than DC does. So how are you going to have DC sitting there waiting for the fight with Stipe Miocic, and you've got an interim title that has to be resolved? So at the end of the day, what ends up happening, actually, it's genius now that I think about it. If Francis Ngannou, it's genius. No wonder. If Francis Ngannou and Lorenzo Rozenstruik fight and they get...
Say his name again.
Lorenzo.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Lorenzo.
Jumanji.
Check it. It's Lorenzo. Lorenzo.
I'm just saying. I heard like 3 different pronunciations from you tonight.
All right. Anyway, if
H was silent too.
it's genius. It's genius. If Ngannou and Rosenstruck fight and they were given an interim title, Daniel
Uh-huh.
Cormier fights Stipe Miocic and he wins and then retires, who's the champ? Your interim title holder.
Exactly. That's why they don't give it to. That's why they're not giving them an interim.
That's why they don't want to give it to him. Because we know that Daniel Cormier is not defending the title if he wins. He's going to retire as the champion. And so if they have an interim title, that becomes instant champion.
So are they saying secretly that they already know who's going to win in that matchup?
Well, I mean, we know who should have won in the rematch. Those body shots came from out of nowhere. But Stipe Miocic was not winning that fight by a long shot.
Yeah.
That fight he was losing.
Sorry, Stipe, but it's not us that's saying that you're gonna lose. All right.
That's Dana White.
I'm saying it.
Dang.
Come on, man. Everybody got a chance.
Yeah. Come on now.
So Dana White confirms that the winner out of Ferguson and Gaethje will fight Khabib in September or October. Of course, we know Ramadan's going on right now for our brothers out there who are observing Ramadan. Ramadan Mubarak. Look at me.
Look at that.
Look at there.
Trying to get all cultural.
I am.
Look at that.
But yeah, so we know that Ramadan's gonna last for 30 days, and then that puts us into May. There'll be some training that Khabib's gonna want to do. We've got to get through all of this COVID-19. So September, October is probably the best guess of when he can fight again, and so guaranteed fighter. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Inshallah.
Oh, very good.
There you go.
Got to show off. Got to show off. Anyway, so Justin Gaethje said that if he beats Tony Ferguson, it isn't the destination; it's the map to Khabib. Of course, most people when they get the interim title, they try to treat themselves as the champion. They try to get that respect. Justin Gaethje says the belt is going to be nice to have, but it's not a championship belt. Championship belt clearly rests on the waist of Khabib Nurmagomedov, and so that gives me that shot to fight him, and he better fight hard because I expect nothing less than him trying to kill me, is what Justin Gaethje said.
He says that until you see the money that interim title will bring him, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm the interim champ."
Yeah,
all right,
respect.
trust me.
Put some respect on my name.
But I hear what he's saying, and everybody uses those words like I'm going to die in the ring. I don't think you really need to say that around Khabib because I think Khabib's that dude that's actually taking that seriously. So you might want to choose your words a little bit more carefully, Justin.
But in talking like that, shouldn't that give him some respect? I mean, I've known you to defend language like that. Yes,
if you mean it. Justin don't mean that. He don't mean he want to leave it all. He want to leave his life.
I would disagree. Justin's fighting style is leaving it all in the ring. Like he doesn't plan when I don't think he trains for fights. Like for the specific fight, he just goes in and says, "I wonder how hard I can swing my arm and hope it connects."
Oh, you saying he's at the Tank Abbott School of Martial Arts? Is that what you say?
My man said so himself. Like when he talks about the fights he's had, he's like, "At this point, I was just going for whatever I could." Whatever could land. It's like, bro, did you game plan for this fight at all? Like, did you watch film?
All right, round 1, I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna try to hit him, and then round 2, I'm gonna try to just do what I did in round 1.
If we get to round 3,
yeah,
I'm gonna try a leg kick, see if that works.
Yes, but if it doesn't work, then I'm gonna do what I did in round 1.
And leg kick him on top of that.
But seriously, I don't think Justin talks a good game. Do I think he's really willing to leave in a stretcher?
It means that much to him. It does.
Dude,
as much as I'm clowning him for
basically done
his
it
fight
multiple
style,
times before.
Yeah. He walked out. He still walked out. I don't think he's willing to leave his life in a pool of blood on the octagon.
This is
him that Eddie Alvarez fight. I invite you to go watch Justin Gaethje versus Eddie Alvarez.
Okay.
Watch the entire fight and come back. Let's talk about this next week.
Let me just go ahead and say I don't believe that there is a fighter in the UFC right now who is willing to leave their life in the ring. Just saying.
Maybe on the undercard because those guys need money.
Yeah, but I could probably name 2.
Name
I
them.
can name 2.
Name them.
3. I'll name 3. Excuse me. 3. Habib,
Mm-mm.
Max Holloway,
Maybe.
and Brian Ortega.
No.
Mm-mm.
Yes.
Not that last one.
Yes.
He's too
Brian
pretty.
Ortega is
He got those
no.
pretty
Brian
eyes.
Ortega
He
is
got too
willing
much
to
to
die.
live for.
He's willing. He is a Gracie fighter.
You
He's
never
willing
fight
to
an
die
ugly
in that
dude because he
ring.
doesn't have anything to lose. So
Right.
Brian Ortega doesn't fall into that category.
Yes, he does. Brian Ortega is a Gracie fighter. Those Gracies will die in the ring. And there's Kron Gracie too. Forgot him. Sorry, Kron. He'll die in that ring too because his daddy is the alpha dog of all the Gracies. Okay.
Thank goodness we have refs because I don't want to see this.
Yeah, like who wants to see somebody dead in the ring? Nobody.
Like, come on.
That's why it's so
Let me get
shocking
this
every
straight.
time it happens because it's
Let's-
like, oh my gosh, who would willingly sign up to die in the ring? Like even Apollo Creed did not intend to die in the ring. Okay,
But
and that's a movie.
Drago knew what was up. Okay, remember that Drago knew what was up when he went in that ring. So all I got to say is, you're telling me they're gonna put an octagon on a beach, on a remote island, with Dana White presiding over this in a throne, sitting there looking like Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat, and you do not expect a fatality at some level? Really?
Did we all just become the Hunger Games, though? Can we put a pause there? Like,
I just want to know where the cornucopia is. That's all I want to know.
Yeah, like
all I'm waiting to see is
who's volunteering as tribute.
Okay, all I'm waiting to see all we need is to see the cameraman and the judges in like some silver silk robes, and it's over, dude. Somebody's dying.
What kind of eyes wide shutter?
Didn't you watch? Don't you watch Bloodsport, man? Did you not watch Bloodsport over the weekend? Okay,
No.
Did you not? The refs were all wearing silk pajamas.
Okay. Here's the funny thing. I didn't put it on the run sheet, but someone wrote an article ranking the fighters from Bloodsport in their readiness to fight in the UFC.
I like this thought.
I was gonna put it on there, but I didn't feel like we were gonna make it to that story at the rate that we're going. I made a good decision.
Okay. I'm going to say, I was going to be here tonight, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to rocket it right into it.
So here we go. Dana White defends Dominic Cruz receiving title shot after nearly 4 years off. This is what I was talking about, is that, it's a great card, but the fight I'm not excited about for UFC 249 is Henry Cejudo versus Dominic Cruz. Because, of course, Dominic Cruz, while he was a dominant fighter when he was fighting, he has been injured. And let's just remember, I believe the last time we saw him, he was getting embarrassed by he got embarrassed by Cody Garbrandt, and then he fought one more time because he got injured, and then he came back, outclassed this one dude. He was like an up and comer, and Dominic Cruz outclassed him. Then he got hurt again, and then it was like we haven't seen or heard from him inside the octagon. We've only seen him at ringside talking about underhooks and stuff. And so now that that Jose Aldo is out, he gets an instant title shot. When you got someone like Peter Yan, who has been fighting his way up, you got someone like, what's his name, Corey Sandhagen, who's been fighting his way up. You've got someone like Aljamain Sterling, who's been fighting his way up. All of these fighters who have been fighting to climb up the ladder, and then some dude who hasn't fought in 4 years, who's been injured more years than he has been fighting, gets a title shot.
Is Dominic Cruz going to have to smack a trick? Like, you really throwing some venom at Dominic. Dominic, number one, he's been hyping up the UFC the entire time he's been out. He's been putting in all the work behind the scenes as far as commentating, things like that. And we know he's injury prone. We know this. But we also know he is one of the greatest fighters in that division. And right now, that division isn't all that deep when you think, you got Peter Yan sitting there waiting in the win. But Dominic, am I saying he deserves it? No. Am I saying it's a good fight to make? Yes. Tell me somebody else at 135 that's going to draw the eyes he does. Tell me somebody else at 135 who's got the fight IQ he does. Tell me somebody else at 135 who's held the belt as many times as he has. Come on, I'll wait.
You're going to be waiting a long time. I mean, it's a compelling argument.
There is one fighter, but no, there isn't. There isn't a fighter out there that can do it.
There is. You could get a drop down fight from the Magician.
Or a drop down fight. Well, let's get a drop down.
You mean come up? He's a 125er.
Well,
yeah.
boom.
Because I was going to say he even beat
John Dodson.
Oh.
But let's put it out there. This is the reason why I love Dominic. I respect his ability. I hate the man, but I respect the ability. And I hate.
What is all this venom being thrown at Dominic tonight?
John has a long list of people that he hates. Chris Weidman, Frank Mir, Dominic Cruz.
Yeah.
He's
right. But see,
I just want to put us on pause for a second. I want to change the topic just for a second. Because I just noticed KC over there with that big GPS bracelet on, as well as his bandana, looking like a criminal.
Yeah.
He's on house with a
GPS bracelet.
COVID-19 was actually convenient because he was on house arrest anyway.
You got Coach over here jobbing. Okay.
Wait, hold on. There we go. Mark 1. Boom.
Okay, but look at what all three of those fighters have in common. They are arrogant about their game. Okay. Now, in the case of Dominic Cruz, you're right. He is he is a phenomenal fighter. 22-2. The two losses that he had on there. One was the last fight he had was with Cody Garbrandt. The other fight was with Uriah Faber. Okay. Now,
Uriah.
Yeah, he lost to Uriah. His first loss was to Uriah Faber. Yeah, WC. Let's put on there that he also beat our perfect fighter, Demetrius Johnson.
Yes,
too.
but there is an asterisk on that. There's an asterisk on him beating Demetrius Johnson because Demetrius Johnson was fighting up from 125 to 135. There wasn't a 125 when he fought there. Also, Demetrius Johnson was not even training full-time as a fighter at that time. He was still a weekend warrior training at his gym, and when he fought to a unanimous decision loss against Dominic Cruz, that's when his coach was like, you probably should stop working and just do this thing full-time. Dude never lost again.
I'm just saying, loss still a loss. Hey, Jon Jones still has a loss against the immortal Matt Hamill. I'm sorry. Matt the Hammer Hamill. There it is. Remember that, Jon Jones. Yeah. You still got a loss to him. Okay.
And by the way, if anybody comes at me about Demetrius Johnson losing to Henry Cejudo, this hand is going to say hi to your face. Just go, slap you. He did not lose that fight.
Okay. So, with that said, I do not agree that Dominic Cruz should have got this fight after being off for 4 years. There are too many other fighters that have been grinding and fighting since his absence that does deserve that. Okay?
Name your top 3.
Peter Yan.
That belong at 135 too.
Peter Yan, Corey Sandhager, Aljamain Sterling. Those 3 guys have been fighting up the ladder this entire time.
Who has Aljamain beaten?
I don't know his body of work by memory.
Who is Corey Sandhagen?
Corey Sandhagen is a beast.
Colorado, who is amazing.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't know him. I do know Dominic Cruz.
Yes, but that's
I think
the
he
thing.
popped onto the map because he took a fight last minute and absolutely dominated his opponent. I'm forgetting who it was, but he popped on the scene like in the last year and a half or so.
The other thing is that this is the second time that the UFC has jumped those guys. Because remember, you also have Marlon Moraes, right? And so the thing about that is Jose Aldo lost to Marlon Moraes, and then even in his loss, he was able to get a title shot over these 3 guys. Jose Aldo comes out, and do they use one of these 3 guys? No, they put another guy who doesn't deserve a title shot over those guys. That is disrespectful.
It's not disrespectful. That's the business. Like, we've established that, I've established this show after show. Rankings don't matter at the UFC. This is all 100% about the thing you love, which is storyline. So Dominic Cruz has a better storyline, and he can sell fights. It truly doesn't matter how good of a fighter you are, how much work you've done. In the UFC, it only matters how much you can sell. That is all that matters. Bottom line.
Why have these 3 fighters on the roster if you're not gonna honor them and put them in a position? Go ahead.
The UFC would say that
I
it is
think
their fault that they haven't done a good enough job promoting themselves.
Well, not only that, the UFC is trying to throw a favor and a bone towards fans for this 249 card. They're trying to make this the most stacked card you possibly can. And that's what they're doing. They're trying to put some names on it that people are going to recognize and want to tune in and watch. And Dominic Cruz being laid off for 4 years actually makes me want to watch him, because you know what he did last time he was out for some time. He came back and put on a show and said ring rust does not exist.
Yeah, that is true.
All right. Hey, so let's move on, because that's just the fight card on May 9th. The UFC is going into overdrive, and they plan to hold 3 events in a week starting at May 9th. But they're also going to have one on May 13th and May 16th in Florida. There's also talk of another card on May 23rd and another fight card on June 6th. That is 5 fight cards in the span of a month.
This has nothing to do with fans.
Players
nothing
Club
to do with fighters.
voice to Trixie: make the money. Don't let the money make you.
Exactly.
Yeah, the most iconic line in all of movies for me.
So all the first 3 fights are going to be fighting at the ViStar Veterans Memorial Arena in Jacksonville. That is UFC 249, headlined by Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje. You also got May 13th, Anthony the Lionheart Smith is going to be fighting Glover Teixeira. Then you've also got Ben Rothwell on that fight, fighting Ovin St. Preux. His move up from light heavyweight to heavyweight. That's a big. Okay, don't do that. Don't do that.
My guy.
Don't.
Why not? Why not, Ryan? Tell us
what is the significance
what does that
there, Ryan?
what does that do to you, Ryan?
This
How
is
does
my
that make you
cultural
feel?
awareness moment, Ryan.
This is your cultural awareness moment.
Hold on. You can't appropriate my culture to talk about cultural awareness.
This is your cultural awareness moment. Clap for yourself.
I hate you so much. Well played. Well played.
All right. UFC Fight Night, May 16th. You've got Walt Harris versus Alistair Overeem. So Walt Harris, of course, this is his first fight back from his harrowing search for his daughter, if you remember that.
Yeah.
Then you got UFC Fight Night, May 23rd. Right now you got Hannah Cyphers versus Mackenzie Dern, women's strawweight fight. And then June 6th, now we get into June, that's when we can start having UFC Fight Island. And that is Rafael Assunção versus Cody Garbrandt. Good fights. So UFC's going into overdrive because they have to. They got to make that money. Why? Because the UFC parent company Endeavor has started laying off people. Their company, which has about 7,500 employees, has plans to lay off 2,500 of them because they are hurting for money. Basically, they are saddled with $4.6 billion in debt, and it's affecting every division of their core business. And so what's happening is because of the fact that they have this huge debt burden and they don't have ways to make money because we're all locked down, there is a lot of pressure on Dana White and the UFC to try to make up that revenue that's not being made with some of these other types of things that's under the Endeavor, formerly WME IMG umbrella. They got to make that money.
Man.
So Scott Coker.
But the thing is,
go ahead. You go for it.
Yeah, like I support the fact that it is going to help people, but for some reason it still has a tinge of like it's more about hitting the money deadline for the execs versus actually taking care of the fighters and giving fans something to watch. Like stacking these events like this, like I can see how it's a rush to make sure that you hit your contracted number of fights, but there's always room to renegotiate a contract. Like I'm not really sure why that isn't the number one thing on the table, is figuring out how you renegotiate the contract versus let's throw together these cards where these fighters may not be fully prepared.
All I can say to that is consider who they're negotiating with and check their history, and you'll understand why they're not trying to renegotiate.
Fair.
And that's all I'm gonna say about that, because I do want to see the Black Widow film come out soon. Okay, and I'm really looking forward
MIC
to. Yeah.
KEY. You better
Thank you.
pay me.
Where my
I
money,
think Ryan feeling himself right now. Hold
Who
on.
would have ever thought
Check
Mickey
that
Mouse would
cough
one
real
day run the
quick.
world?
That's right.
Walt Disney. Okay, Walt Disney knew. All right, he knew.
Mhm.
He knew. And okay, here's my 30 seconds. Give me my clock. All right, Walt Disney had, and a lot of artists agree, those who have merged, especially those who have merged into Walt Disney, yes, it is an entertainment entity. However, they are known for killing creativity. If you don't believe it, watch all the
Wow.
watch the DC films before Disney and after Disney. Watch the Marvel films before Disney and after Disney, and see the change in how they act. We can go into more depth after the show, and I'll show you. I can tell you how.
Well, you know what
Stay
that
tuned.
sounds like to me.
Oh, my friends, that is not. Hey, trust me. Anybody that follows me, they can tell you the same thing. Okay. Like I said, we're gonna have an after the bell show, and I'll explain it in further detail.
Hey, I like that. After the bell.
After the bell.
That's
Hits after the bell.
you
I
might,
like that. We got to
yeah, we may have to
chime that in.
Yeah, except who's gonna produce all that and do all the video and editing for that? Because okay, good. As long as it's not me. All right, let's move on because we got so much stuff to get to. I don't want to run out of time. All right, here we go. Scott Coker, he's talking about the fact that they are trying to make a very they're trying to show patience in during this pandemic time, and they're looking for a more safe venue on the studio lot, because remember, Viacom MMA, aka Bellator, is a subsidiary of Viacom, which also has CBS as under their umbrella, and so there are large empty studio lots where they could actually put their ring and actually shoot the video of these fights in a controlled environment. What he's saying, though, he's looking over at the UFC and what they're trying to accomplish, and he goes, he's concerned about it being ambitious, because the risk is this: if something goes wrong with the UFC, then it screws the ability for all the other promotions to fight.
Facts.
And so he's
Big
like,
facts.
you guys, you're going with this very ambitious plan. You're trying to do this whole Fight Island, and it's great because if you pull it off, it's great for the sport in general. But if you screw up because you were reckless, it's going to ruin it for everybody. So you better be aware of what it is that you were trying to accomplish, what risk you're taking on. And I agree with Scott Coker there. Dana White is, you got to take risk if you want the reward. He's got a big number he's got to hit and a lot of pressure to try to hit it. But at the same time, he could be ruining it for everybody if he doesn't get it right. So fingers crossed for Dana White.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Chael Sonnen said Jon Jones should stop pretending and just be a scumbag.
Again, I still don't think that he's pretending. I think it's the duality of man, where he wants to be a good person, but he steps in his own way. I feel like that's just kind of a crappy way of throwing shade. Like, how is Chael still relevant? Like,
Chael's relevant because he's on ESPN now. I mean,
Yeah, and Chael has a really good podcast. Oh, and I'm not going to say the name.
What's it called?
It's called, and like I said, you can find it if you look for it. Just look for the name.
Yeah, I still feel like, as a whole, he's a guy who gives his opinion. He talks a lot, but like, I was about to be mean for no reason. I was like, where's the belt at? I got a belt. You got a belt?
Is that the duality of man that you're doing right there? Is that what you're a nice guy?
You're a nice guy, KZ, but man, you just went in on him right there.
That's kind of
no, because it's just like it's an unnecessary beating a man while he's down. Like, Chael, okay, so how often should we talk about you popping for PEDs?
But see, he widely admits.
But it's a guy. You're defending a guy who popped for PEDs.
Yeah,
calling out a
But-
guy who popped for
What we're
PEDs.
saying is he doesn't have the leg room to stand on himself.
Yes, he
Like,
does.
why are we? His podcast is called The Bad Guy. Tells you I'm not the greatest human being whatsoever. So he probably shouldn't be the one talking about Jon Jones.
No.
Actually, that makes him an expert if you think about it, because
Yeah,
he
if you're talking
knew.
about the PD use.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he knew because he talks about it in this conversation where when he fought against Jon Jones, and he said that when they locked up, that Jon Jones immediately pushed him to the cage, and he thought to himself, "Oh, Jon, I know what you've been doing because I know what I've been doing." All right, he said it. He was juicing more than Tropicana. Okay, when he was in that fight. All right, his words. And he said, if I was doing that, what was Jon Jones doing in there? So he's
that
like,
sounds like a guy who was getting beat and making excuses, though.
Yeah.
oh, but see, that's the thing. He doesn't. He doesn't make excuses. He takes it. He takes it on the chin.
He
That's
did.
one thing I like about Chael, that he will freely admit that, hey, I lost. I got my butt kicked that day.
Except for when he got choked out by Anderson Silva, but it was all for
Anderson.
play. It was funny. It was a bit, right? Like he really did take the loss on the chin, but it was funny as he was trying to talk his way into the rematch, how he was positioning his loss, saying that it wasn't a loss. I thought it was pretty funny. Here's the quote that I want to put out there is. Chael Sonnen says, "You were on TMZ in handcuffs crying about, I want to go home and be with my kids." He's like, dude, it's 2 a.m. and you're firing guns while shooting and running donuts in a parking lot drunk on tequila. You're like, your time to be with he goes, were your kids even up? Like, were they even awake? You know, and that's the case, right? I mean, you're trying to get us to see this duality where he wants to be good, but he's powerless against the bad. It's like, no, he's bad.
Hey,
he's just a bad
Anakin-
dude.
No, I think he's all those things included. I agree with KC. I'm not saying that he wants to be good, but he's just a bad human being. No, all those things exist in one human being. That's all KC's making the point about. He's all of those things. He's a great person when he chooses to be. He's also a very bad person when he chooses to be. He's all of that in one, wrapped up into one human being.
Anakin Skywalker also wanted to rule the galaxy and make everybody.
I like how you
obey.
bring this back to Disney.
Yeah. Well, you didn't used to be, but now it is.
Yeah.
He said that the senators should be made to understand and work for the common people. All right. That's just like saying Anakin was not a bad person. He just used bad reasoning to get his point across.
I think
No
good or
dissemination.
bad, it kind of comes down to marketing strategy. So the essence of what Chael is saying isn't necessarily a mark on Jon Jones' character. It's like, look, just play the part of the heel. The sport needs it. It is kind of the essence of what he's saying. Like, you will do better not having to play this dualistic role, just be the heel. The downside of that is, like, Jon Jones is already basically in a heel role. He's just not leaning into it. And the only way that he can lean into it more is to have that cringe factor that we've all just come to see as phony and fake when you look at, like, I hate you. But, like, he's going to have to play a role to become the heel. And that's not going to ring as authentic, because we've seen the Jon Jones who's trying, who still is going to be giving back to the community, is still going to be, like, speaking to kids and mentoring. Like,
yeah,
he can't play the heel effectively because we know he's just playing the heel in the same way that Cejudo can't play a heel because it's just cringe.
but Nino Brown gave.
Here we go.
He gave back to the community too.
Yes, he did. Every Thanksgiving. Hey,
Wait,
Frank
you've heard
White
Jon
did
Jones talk on Twitter.
What?
Do you want more of that? You've heard Jon Jones talk on Twitter. Do you want more of that?
I mean, Jon Jones loses every Twitter battle he's in.
Exactly. This is like why you can't be a heel.
I'll just say
you're not good at it.
I'm just saying Frank White also gave back to
Look,
Harlem.
he
as
might
well.
not be the one to talk it up, but he can back it up.
Well, this is
Right.
true. Like nobody's gonna say anything about Jon Jones' ability once that cage door closes. But at the same time, what you want a good guy at home chilling, and then whenever he's in public, then he plays this heel. He is like the opposite. He's like the bad dude at home. And then he gets in public and he's like, I'm such a good guy. Look at me. Like he's like the opposite of what you want in a good heel. If we're talking about the personas that these fighters play in order to get the attention, he is the opposite of that. And I think that's what's so frustrating is that what you want is you want him to flip. And I don't think there's a person on this show, and I think there's a lot of people, in the MMA world who wants to see Jon Jones succeed. Like, does anyone here not want to see Jon Jones succeed? I, for one, want to see Jon Jones succeed. I want to see him turn his life around, become all that he can be, without having to get into the army. But,
Hold on. Wait a minute, triggered. Okay, let's not talk about the be all you can be army. All right, we shall not do this on this show. I know where everybody lives. I don't know where KC lives. I don't know where he lives.
Exactly.
But anyway, it's one of those things where we want to see him do well, and I think that's where the criticism is coming from. It's the frustration that what appears to us to be so simple a decision to make, he has shown himself incapable of making those decisions. And so that's the frustration, at least for me, is that I know that he can be a great person both in the cage, which he has proven, and out of the cage, which he seems to stumble every time he reaches for that. And so
is his best bet being a heel then? Just to the core of Chael's question or statement. Should he be the heel, whether or not he's good at home or not? Like, is it now time for his career to switch over to being the heel?
Has it ever not been the heel? Is
Yes.
the question.
It has. There were a couple of periods of time when he first started, when he was just Johnny Bones Jones coming up, killing folks in the lower rankings, where he was just this phenom of a guy who was just plucky and thankful and humble and all these kind of things. It wasn't until
You gotta remember, this was the same guy that he actually stopped a burglary or something, or a robbery, and chased after the guy that stole the woman's purse. Like,
right before the championship fight, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was something like that. Right before, it was like it was fight week where he caught a burglar. Yeah, that's a great story, But then what happened was, after the Rashad Evans debacle, where he fought Rashad Evans and all of the trash talk started happening, and Rashad Evans is like, "Dude, you're fake. I know you. I've seen you in the training. I know that you're not the person that you're trying to. That's a persona. It's fake." And all those things that Rashad Evans said that nobody believed. Nobody believed until he crashed his Chrysler 300 in a ditch with some women who wasn't his girlfriend.
Hey.
And then it was maybe Rashad Evans is right.
Hey.
I think I have that
It's
audio.
always been there. Yeah, the thing about that, though, is that I could always see that there was just something not right about Jon Jones. It was something about his persona that it just did not sit well. I mean, and it's like you can tell when a person's trying to fake it. Embrace what comes naturally to you. That's all I'm asking. Because until you embrace what
about being a heel,
yeah,
it's not going to come natural to him either.
I think it does. I think it comes very natural to him. I think when
trash talk, he's really bad on the mic.
He'll trash talk. That's just one aspect. I'm talking about just really being who you are. Because when you pump the brakes on your natural abilities, you will. It shows. It shows when you hesitate, because you will never do it right. It's only when you fully embrace your skills and your abilities that you truly begin to shine. And if your abilities tends to be force chokes and lightsabers to the wrist, if that's what makes you shine, man.
Lightsabers to the wrist.
You know, Darth Vader chopped his own son's like. He did that. Yeah, he did that.
That's the best analogy you had. You had to get back to Star Wars.
He did that to his own son. That is a natural gift to do that to your own son. Okay, that's all I got.
Someone said it's a gift. I don't want to be your kid.
I'm just saying, if you could do that to your own son, I mean, you saw what he did. He choked an admiral on another ship. Okay, easily. Choked him out.
I love Ryan's face right now. Like, what is the,
like?
What is
I have lost
I just
control
want y'all
of
to
this
realize,
show.
basically, we're saying Jon Jones is Darth Vader.
Yes. That makes either Winklejohn or Greg Jackson the Emperor. That's it.
Palpatine.
Yeah,
Yep,
I think Greg Jackson is Palpatine. Well, I think Ryan Bader.
Greg, and Mike, I did not say that.
Yeah, look, we gonna end up ruining this for George here. George actually knows and has spoken to Mike Winklejohn. Like you hung out with him. So I ain't saying nothing bad about those guys. I don't want to ruin it for you, George.
All right, Mike, let's sit down and talk. Let me get to know you. Let me get to know this situation, and then I'll
ruining it for him. Just let's just stop.
Oh, but y'all didn't have a problem when you set me up to get murdered by Anthony Smith. Okay. Cool.
Hold on. No, that was different.
You deserve it. Yes, I know what's coming.
Well, that was different. Okay. Valentino Shevchenko kicked Halle Berry and broke some bones. Speaking of bones, Halle Berry took a kick from Valentina Shevchenko and was never the same.
I need to see the MRI or the X-ray.
Yeah, I just want to see the movie now. Like you got me. The moment you told me that Valentina Shevchenko kicked Halle Berry and broke some ribs, I just want to see that part. Just show me that part.
I'm not gonna comment on this because
was it broke ribs or broke like finger bones?
I think it was ribs.
I think it's ribs. It doesn't.
She just said I broke some stuff.
I broke some stuff on this one. It's okay. I always get hurt, but I realize that
like
when you go hard, you're bound to get hurt. When you do your own stunts, you're bound to get hurt. In this movie, I was fighting real UFC flyweight champion Valentina Shevchenko, and you know what? She had to throw some real kicks, and I really had to take them, and I really broke some bones. She didn't say where she broke the bones. I would assume
hand.
You think hand?
It's got to be.
Or maybe
until I see the X-ray, I don't believe it.
Yeah, like a broken rib is not something you just bounce right back, especially at 50. Like,
hold on. Her 50 is not the normal.
Shots
50.
fired.
Okay, all right.
I'm just saying.
Shots fired. Halle Berry.
Halle Berry 53 is not a normal person's 53.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's like a 35.
Yeah.
So
I mean, she probably took a shot.
You kick her out of the bedroom.
Uh-oh.
Hey, we all know I like older women, so come on now.
Oh my God.
And he is single. His Bumble account is
up right now on my other computer.
That was his slick way of taking a stab at Halle, huh? Are you saying Wesley
find him on Tinder, Bumble, Ship,
Halle Berry?
And Hinge.
Actually, I'm talking to Claire right now while we're talking. So, Claire, when you see this, hey, how you doing?
Oh my God!
Oh my gosh, this is not good, man. I got John talking about Star Wars. I got Kalechi using this as his own video dating service.
Gotta get points.
Oh my gosh, this is off the rails, and we are already 3 minutes over time. And I still got two stories I want to get to. Speaking of Halle Berry, you can get a private dinner with Halle Berry by going all in the All In Challenge. So if you look, where your money at, KC?
See, the way my bank account's set up, I'm gonna need to borrow a couple of
$1,200 coming your way. You can put it all in. Maybe you can.
That Rona
about me tax bracket, son. You mean 1,200? Come on.
Last story of the night. Boxing event goes ahead in Nicaragua with face masks and temperature checks. So basically, you've got a boxing match. The fighters are wearing protective face masks, and between rounds,
man.
they're taking temperatures. I don't know how they kept from determining whether or not someone had a fever, because once you start boxing and you get hot, your temperature's gonna go up. Like, I don't get it. So Sonia's been watching. She thought that was really funny. We got a Lamau from her. There you go. Lamau.
I think that's for you, Casey. All right,
Yeah.
just so you know.
All right. Follow us on social media on Instagram. I am.
Whoa. Hold on. Before we go,
Here we go.
I just want to wish Ryan a happy birthday. His birthday is on Wednesday. All right, for those who don't know,
Thank you.
he's actually got his AARP card. He's gonna go, get some takeout from Denny's, on that Grand Slam discount, and it's gonna be great. So happy birthday, sir!
Thank you so much.
You deserve it.
Thank you.
You deserve that prune juice, sir.
Thank you.
Go on.
Thank you so much. I think what Jon Jones would say to me is, "You deserve it."
We gotta take that drop away from you, fam.
All right. Follow us on social media on Instagram. I am at Combat Sports Talk.
I'm at Keys to Victory. That's Keys with an ES.
George.
At darkside_MMA_.
And KC.
I'm at Obfuscated, and that is spelled OBFUSC, the number 8, TED.
And that's true. That's really his account. You can go to our website at www.combatsportstalk.com. You can get all of our archives and all of this greatness that you heard tonight. You can get this 120 other episodes of this. You can find us on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. We are also on YouTube and just anywhere you want to look, Combat Sports Talk, you'll find us. Shout out to MMA Junkie, MMA Fighting, MMA Mania, Bloody Elbow, and the Intelligent Defense Discussion Group. All the other sites providing us stories that we use on the show. On behalf of John Keys, George Stallworth, and KC Onyebuchi, I'm Ryan Smith reminding you to keep your hands up, your chin tucked, and throw bombs. We'll catch you next time.